When I found out Jackson was cheating, we were both surprisingly calm about it. He stood there, almost shielding the other woman, his voice flat and measured. Don't blame her. This is entirely my fault. She had nothing to do with it. I simply nodded. I understood. Later that evening, Jackson slid a thick folder across the kitchen island. Divorce papers. I've been generous with the finances, he said. Take a look. Sign if it works for you. I picked it up, skimmed it, and then dropped it neatly into the trash beneath the sink. I smiled warmly. Don't worry, love. This isn't worth turning our lives upside down over. After all, it's just an affair. In this world of fleeting connections and temptations, who hasn't strayed? I wasn't perfect either, so who was I to judge Jackson? Jackson paused mid-drag on his cigarette, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. I knew exactly what he was thinking. I wasn't the same jealous, possessive woman I used to be. Back then, I would have scrutinized every message on his phone. Jackson always drew attention, and even at the height of our love, there were women who didn't care about rings or vows. We argued about it constantly, but that was the past. Years together had dulled the fire into a quiet routine. Or maybe I'd just grown weary. Our marriage had become a still lake, unruffled by even the smallest breeze. And sometimes, when life is too calm, you crave a little chaos. Jackson, I said, leaning on the counter. We've known each other for 20 years, married nearly 10. Our business is thriving, our families practically intertwined. I let the words settle. Do you even realize what a divorce would do to us? It would split assets, send the company's stock plummeting, and shatter our families. Our parents aren't young. A shock like this could devastate them. He was quiet for a long moment. I just wanted to respect you, he muttered. Respect? I asked, voice calm, but pointed. That's your idea of respect, getting someone pregnant behind my back and turning me into a cliché? He bristled. She's not just some girl. I told you it was me. She knew I was married and tried to stop it. I understand. No need to justify yourself, I interrupted. You're worried I'll retaliate, that I'll ruin her life. Don't. My greatest trait, Jackson, is generosity. He narrowed his eyes. You're really fine with this? I wouldn't call it fine, I sighed theatrically. But you've found what you think is love. That's rare these days. I'm happy to cheer you on. My little speech didn't exactly warm him up, but it planted a seed. He agreed to reconsider the divorce. Over the next few days, he came straight home after work. Every time his phone buzzed, he would glance at me, hesitate, then silence it. I made a show of generosity. Is that her? Take the call. Don't leave her feeling invisible. If you can't give her everything she wants, at least don't hide her existence. He clenched his jaw, then retreated to his study. That closed door summed up everything about him right now. His heart hadn't been open to me in years. I understood. People tolerate those they love, and even those they're indifferent to. But the ones they used to love often suffer the harshest cruelty. He probably hated me so much that even breathing the same air felt unbearable. And yet, he played the role of a husband each night, fearful of what I might do to his new obsession. Poor guy, such dedication. I slept alone as usual. I couldn't remember the last time we'd shared a bed. In the early days, I tried, wearing something enticing, making the first move, but he always claimed exhaustion. Please. Men can still be virile well into their later years. It wasn't about fatigue. He was being satisfied elsewhere. And a woman in her 30s has desires. I had found a discreet, clean solution for myself. That night, just before bed, a text appeared. When will you divorce him? I don't do this. I'm not the other woman. If you aren't leaving him, we're done. Don't reach out again. I briefly considered him, remembered his strong physique, and felt a flicker of regret. But I wasn't about to beg. Divorce was off the table, and he sounded serious. I tapped his name and deleted the contact. Plenty of other options existed. Next time, it would be even better. Monday morning brought the quarterly shareholders meeting. I hadn't stepped foot in the office regularly since my miscarriage a few years back. After that, I stayed home to recover, content to collect my dividends from afar. But one thing I never skipped was a shareholders meeting. A few new faces had appeared since my last visit, but my eyes immediately found one in particular, a young woman tucked in the corner, taking notes. She caught sight of me, panicked for a second, then sank back in her chair and buried herself in her notepad. I didn't feel anger, mostly pity. She was the first of Jackson's lovers he had ever brought into my world. That said, she wasn't the first he'd been with during our marriage. Jackson had always been careful to keep his personal life separate from work. None of the others had been allowed this close. The way he protected her, the way he had inserted her into our private world. I had to admit, maybe this was something more than a fling. Maybe it was love. At 10 sharp, Jackson walked in. He didn't start the meeting. Moments later, the conference room door opened again, and a man in a crisp charcoal suit entered. "Sorry I'm late," he said without a trace of remorse, cutting past everyone and slipping into the seat beside Jackson. His eyes flicked briefly to mine, cool and unreadable, before looking away. I smirked. That was Caleb, always poker-faced, especially in moments that mattered most. I had a peculiar weakness for that. The colder he was, the more I was drawn in. "Chloe, who's that?" whispered the shareholder next to me. "Caleb, our angel investor," I explained quietly. "Without him, the company wouldn't exist. I've never seen him at one of these. He owns a lot and we send him quarterly invites, but he usually declines. So why now?" I smiled and shook my head. Beats me. Maybe he was bored. By noon, the meeting concluded. I decided to stick around for lunch with Jackson. I was in the executive restroom washing my hands when his young girlfriend walked in. Her instinct was to flee, but she hesitated and shuffled toward me, head bowed. "Mrs. Davis," she whispered. I took my time drying my hands, enjoying the hum of the air dryer. Silence stretched until she began to sob, shoulders shaking. Pathetic. "Mrs. Davis, I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know he was married at first. I tried to leave, I really did, but..." I finished for her, gently lifting her chin with a silk handkerchief. "You stayed because leaving Jackson would have felt like ripping your heart out. And now he's brought you into his work world, so you can be with him every day, right?" She was too stunned to respond. "You wanted something from me?" I asked, voice soft but firm. Tears streaked her cheeks as she admitted, "Please just divorce him. I'm pregnant." "Does Jackson know?" I asked, calm and measured. She nodded. "Yes, but he said you wouldn't agree. I grew up in a broken home. I just want to give my child a complete family. I'll do anything for the baby." I smiled serenely. "Stop crying. It's not good for the baby." "Thank you," she gushed, attempting a curtsy, but freezing mid-motion. I glanced at my watch. Lunch was long overdue. "Jackson and I will discuss the divorce," I said, patting her shoulder lightly as I passed by. Inside his office, Jackson was mid-conversation with Caleb. "Hey, perfect timing," Jackson said, smiling at me. "Caleb, it's been a while since you and Chloe met, right? Let's grab lunch together." "Not that long, actually. We'd just been together last week." Caleb's gaze flicked to me. "It's been a minute," he said smoothly. "I was going to text, but seems Chloe deleted my number?" Jackson snatched my phone and scrolled. You're not there." "She must have done it by accident," Jackson rushed to explain. "Chloe never deletes anyone." "Not a problem. Let's fix it," Caleb said, offering his phone with his contact QR code. Jackson scanned it, sending the new request while Caleb remained perfectly stone-faced. I rolled my eyes subtly. And here I thought he'd sworn we'd never speak again. Just as we were about to leave, a soft knock came at the door. Jackson's young lover stood there, pale and clutching her stomach, asking for permission to leave early. Technically, she should have gone through her supervisor. But when you're the boss's favorite, rules tend to bend themselves. Naturally, Jackson insisted on taking care of her personally, which left Caleb and me to head to lunch alone. As I walked out, Jackson caught my eye. "Be nice to him," he mouthed. "Apologize for deleting his number." They had once been close, I'll give them that. Caleb's investment had been the company's first lifeline. But we weren't kids anymore. Money and ego had replaced loyalty. To show just how sorry I was, the moment we got into Caleb's sleek black car, I lifted my wrists toward him. He wordlessly slipped off his silk tie and bound them. His gaze was cold, his tone even colder. "So that's it? You delete me like I'm nothing," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You think you can just vanish whenever you please? Come back when it suits you? What am I to you, Chloe, your pet?" The car's tinted windows kept us hidden, but we were still in the company parking garage. The proximity, the risk, it made my pulse race. "You still love him that much?" he hissed. "You know he's been sleeping with her for months, and you still won't walk away?" He pulled me into his lap, one arm locked around me, his hand gripping my chin. "Look," he murmured. Across the garage, the elevator doors slid open. Jackson appeared, one arm wrapped protectively around his trembling mistress. He was clearly escorting her to the hospital. Caleb's hold on my jaw tightened. "What do you think he'd do?" he whispered near my ear. "If I rolled down the window and said hello?" I could barely breathe. Caleb wasn't gentle, not when emotions ran high. I knew better than to beg or resist. It only fueled him further. Instead, I reached for the window control, pressing the button with trembling fingers. Cool air rushed in as I leaned out, ready to call Jackson's name. Jackson turned, confusion flickering across his face. But before I could speak, Caleb's hand slammed the button, sealing the window shut. "What's wrong?" the young woman asked Jackson, glancing back. He shook his head and guided her toward their car. Pity. If Jackson had recognized Caleb's brand-new Rolls-Royce, he might have noticed his wife sitting inside. I remembered when Caleb had first sent me a picture of the car. "Plenty of space in the back," he'd texted. "Perfect for breaking it in." After today's test run, I could confirm his claim. When it was over, I was slumped against the seat, drained. Caleb sat beside me, shirt undone, his expression smug and satisfied. "You can't keep this up," he said, tapping the steering wheel. "That marriage of yours is barely alive. He's really fallen for her this time, and you know it." Of course I knew. The last woman Jackson had loved that deeply had been me. "It's fine," I said softly. "Worst case, he files for divorce. I've got time. I can drag it out for years." Caleb frowned. "I don't understand you, Chloe. Why cling to someone who doesn't love you? To a marriage that's long dead?" "There's no reason," I said with a small shrug. "Not everything in life needs one." I met his eyes. "And even if I divorced Jackson, I wouldn't marry you. So why are you so determined?" His expression darkened, the lines of his jaw tightening. I sighed. "You want the thrill of being the other man, but you also want the respect that comes with being the husband. You can't have both, Caleb." Jackson didn't come home that night. I wasn't surprised. Which is probably why Caleb felt comfortable showing up, under the pretense of keeping me company. But comfort wasn't what he had in mind. At the height of it, when I was trembling beneath him, he picked up his phone and dialed Jackson. "Caleb." Jackson's voice came through groggy, heavy with sleep, or something else. "I heard you're planning to divorce Chloe," Caleb said smoothly, not missing a beat. I bit my lip, a broken sound escaping before I could stop it. Jackson heard. Are you with her right now?" Caleb hummed in response, his fingers brushing hair from my face. "She's crying." A long silence followed. Then Jackson sighed. "I've really hurt her." "So you're really ending it?" Caleb asked quietly. The faint sound of a lighter clicked through the speaker. "I have to," Jackson said at last. "She's pregnant. I can't abandon her." "But Chloe doesn't want this," Caleb pressed, his tone sharp. "She still loves you." As he spoke, his frustration poured into every movement. "I'll talk to her soon," Jackson promised weakly before hanging up. Caleb leaned close, his voice a growl. "You heard him. He doesn't love you anymore." He tightened his hold. "Divorce him?" "No." "I'm asking one last time. Are you going to let him go?" My fingers dug into the sheets, my breath shallow. "Never." "Why should I? Why should I make it easy for them? I built this life with him. I earned it. For Chloe Davis, there would never be a divorce. Only widowhood." Jackson came home around noon the next day. I was at the table, half awake, spooning tasteless oatmeal. He sat on the couch, staring at the floor. The silence between us was a living thing. Finally he spoke. "Honey, we need to talk." Honey. He hadn't called me that in years. Somewhere along the way, Chloe had replaced it, first at work, then at home. I stood and walked to him. "You know, don't you? About the baby." He nodded. "So, what now?" "I'm not sure," I said. "She'll have the baby, obviously. If it's appearances you're worried about, we can raise it here, under my name." He looked exhausted, eyes shadowed. "That's not an option. She's the child's mother. I can't let her be humiliated like that. So, I have to do the right thing," he said softly. "Please, Chloe, make this easy. Just sign the papers. You'll have everything you want in the settlement. I'll handle our parents, the press, everything. You can even make me the villain if it helps you." I studied him. "Are you negotiating with me, Jackson? Is that what we've become? A business transaction?" I leaned in, searching his eyes. "Tell me something. Am I the enemy now?" He looked away. Funny how time changes people. 10 years ago, I would have laughed if someone told me I'd ever be the one refusing to let go. I remembered the day we made it official. I'd told him, if you ever fall for someone else, just tell me. No drama, no tears. I'll walk away. But that girl doesn't exist anymore. Lately, I've been thinking about the past more than usual. Maybe it's age, or maybe it's just how deeply Jackson shaped my youth. Even now, the memories feel as vivid as ever. Jackson had made it clear. He intended to divorce me. Since I refused to cooperate, he hired a lawyer and was preparing to file. The same day I heard the news, his young girlfriend was mugged on her way to work. She clung desperately to her purse, and the thief dragged her down the street. She was rushed to the hospital, and for a moment, they feared for the baby. Jackson rushed to her side, panicked and frantic. After settling her down, he came home, anger and guilt etched into his face. I was on the couch, watching our wedding video projected onto the wall. Smiling, I greeted him brightly. "You're home. I didn't even hear you come in." For the first time, his disgust was unmasked. "What have you become, Chloe?" he hissed. "You make me sick." A fleeting pang hit my chest, sharp as a blade, but I swallowed it. "You think I orchestrated her mugging?" I asked. "Didn't you?" he shot back. "Or maybe it's just karma," I said lightly. A little cosmic punishment for a mistress bold enough to flaunt her affair in front of a wife. He snarled. "It's all on me. I chased her. I pressured her. I got her pregnant because I was scared she'd leave. If anyone deserves punishment, it's me." He looked consumed by guilt. His torment came from failing to give the woman he loved a proper life and title. "Chloe, I'm begging you. Leave her alone," he said. I gestured toward the screen. "Jackson, look at yourself. You won't let her go, but remember this. Every word you whisper to her, every promise you make, you said them to me first." The screen showed a younger Jackson spinning me around, ecstatic. "I will love Chloe forever," he had sworn. "If I betray her, may I lose everything I love and die a horrible death." Jackson's face drained of color as he watched, lips moving without sound. "Tell me," I whispered, "if the Jackson on that screen saw the way you're hurting me now, would he even want to survive?" "You look terrible," I added softly. "Relax. I'm not trying to torment you. I just wanted to calm the storm a little." He sat beside me. I continued, "People change, Jackson. You think this is love with her, but you loved me once just as deeply. You would have given everything for me." I leaned closer. "If you divorce me for her, what happens when the next true love appears? Another cycle? Another divorce?" He opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. "Don't tell me she's different. When we were young, you thought I was different too. The truth is, Jackson, people are always the same. Hearts change. Marriage doesn't define love," I said calmly. "If you don't wed her, does that mean you'll stop caring? What does she truly want, love, or the prestige of being Mrs. Davis?" He hesitated. "But the baby? I can't let my child be illegitimate." "Then we raise it," I said, batting my eyelashes. "Under my name. The first wife's child carries far more weight than a second marriage. Surely you know that." I pressed further. "Even if we divorced tomorrow and you married her, the timing would never make sense. She'd always be the woman who broke a marriage. The baby will always be the product of infidelity. If she truly loves you and the child, she'll understand the right choice," I added. Jackson exhaled, shivering, and abruptly stood. "It's late. You should rest." I waved him off. "Go ahead. I'll just look at old photos." He paused by the TV, glancing at our wedding portrait, then turned and headed upstairs. Before he disappeared, he asked softly, "Chloe, why won't you divorce me?" "If I said I still loved you," I replied, smiling without humor, "you probably wouldn't believe me. The truth is, I just don't see the point. My father left my mother for his true love. Total disaster," I added. Years later, sick and alone, he returned. My mother? She eventually forgave him. It all circles back eventually. Messy, but predictable. "Marriage is a tomb," I whispered. "And you, Jackson, are the only tomb I'll ever enter willingly." People claim men remain loyal to a single type. I never believed it, until I saw his girlfriend. She's like I was at her age. Same single-parent household, same scars, same stubborn pride. Jackson once said he wished he'd met me later. Back then, his wings weren't wide enough to shelter me. We got drenched together, struggling to survive life's storms.
Now?
He has power, influence. He can protect her. Lucky her. And me? What of me, Jackson? You've found peace. Does that mean I'm discarded? All the promises, the sacred moments, the vows, do they evaporate when you change your mind? Jackson didn't bring up divorce again. Despite her being in her third trimester, he started returning home more often. I played the part of the benevolent wife, constantly insisting he focus on her. I've hired nurses, he'd say. They can do everything I can't. I'd smile. But she wants you, not a hired hand. He'd quietly set food on my plate, untouched for the rest of the meal. One night, he asked if I wanted to be intimate. My first thought, go to your girlfriend. Then I remembered she was heavily pregnant. He needed release, and now the dutiful wife was the convenient option. I refused, flat. Chloe, you used to be enthusiastic, he said, frowning. I smiled. You're mistaken. I still am. If you're that desperate, I added, go to a strip club. You had other women even when you claimed to love me. His face drained of color.
Shock.
Disbelief. Your lies were obvious, Jackson. Did you really think I didn't know? The first time I realized Jackson had been unfaithful, I thought my world had ended. I was young and naive, convinced that love was black and white. If a man strayed, it meant he no longer loved me. I was wrong. Jackson did love me, maybe too much at times. Every flicker of guilt after his indiscretions only deepened his desperation, made him cling to me tighter for a while. But what kind of love is that? He loved me and still spent nights with other women. The night I lost my child, he arrived at the hospital with a bright smear of lipstick on his collar. Panicked, teary-eyed, he held me close, promising I would never suffer like that again. He stayed with me day and night, dropping work without hesitation. Under his care, I recovered, my health restored. He lost 20 pounds. Did he love me? I suppose he did. But true love doesn't allow betrayal. There is no perfect love. It's like my favorite meal. Ribs. Delicious, but with bones. Boneless pork chops are easier, but they're not the same. I wanted the ribs, every bit, even the bones. Jackson stared at me as though seeing me for the first time. A strange clarity shone in his eyes, like the fog had lifted. Chloe, he said softly, how have you endured these past years? Does it matter? I replied with a small smile. Now that you can finally see my pain, does it still wound you, Jackson? His hands trembled, fists clenching until his entire body shook. I expected satisfaction, but after a few moments, I felt only boredom. Tossing in my phone, I said casually, someone's calling for you. He answered, muttered a few words, and hung up. Her water broke, he said mechanically. She's on her way to the hospital. Then go. Don't be late, I said, lazily settling into bed. Congratulations in advance. You're going to be a father. I fell asleep, unaware of when he finally left. Jackson's daughter arrived, and a month later, I suggested a small celebration. Since we were still legally married, the baby was registered under my name. Social circles didn't blink at a man bringing a child from another woman into the primary home. It was an open secret. Jackson glowed with new father pride, and the guests congratulated him politely. Caleb appeared with a pair of solid gold baby bracelets. Modest for him. Thoughtful nonetheless. The baby was doted on by a nanny, and I joined only when I wished. She was perfect, a little doll, a blend of her parents' best features. It was impossible not to like her. Caleb lingered beside me, watching Jackson show her off. You're just watching? He asked quietly. Yes, I said. I'm just watching. I want to be a father too, he murmured. Go ahead. I won't stop you, I said. But you won't have my child, he said. I like my body, I replied with a laugh. Why risk it for a child I don't want? But you've been pregnant before, he said.
Yes.
That was love, I said simply. A child with you? That would be pointless. I don't love you. He gave a bitter, self-deprecating smile, and I recognized the hurt. But he was free. His presence was his choice, and no one else's fault. Jackson approached with the baby, teasing Caleb about his single status. Caleb responded with dry humor, then delivered a verbal bomb to Jackson, highlighting the hypocrisy of the mistress enjoying love, money, and a child while he, the other man, received nothing. The celebration shattered. I slapped Caleb to silence him, but he only remarked coolly on the change in my perfume. unaffected by the blow. Lesson learned: never entangle yourself with someone more powerful. When it goes wrong, you lose control. I hadn't meant for Caleb to enter my life. My plan had been simple, a young, manageable college guy. But fate had other ideas. Caleb, Jackson's former college roommate, was distant and untouchable. I barely knew him. Yet that night at the bar, a chance glance set everything in motion. I pretended to ignore him, but he was impossible to overlook. I brought a college kid back to my hotel, convinced my own hang-ups wouldn't interfere. I'd even taken an aphrodisiac in preparation, marveling at how absurdly I had become this person. The moment I made a move in the hallway, Caleb appeared, intercepting the kid with a punch and a glare that froze my heart. "Stop it," I gasped, burning with frustration and adrenaline. He demanded clarity. "What did you take? Should I call for help?" "No. I did it myself," I said, waving him away. "Chloe, are you drunk? You know what you're doing." For a fleeting second, logic snapped. Is it illegal for a married person to sleep with someone else? If it is, Jackson deserves life in prison. Caleb scowled. "If he's at fault, you should leave him. Don't punish yourself this way." "Divorce him?" I spat. "You don't know my life, my past. Walk away? And then what? End up on the street?" He blocked my path like a sentinel. I shoved at him. "Stop meddling." The college kid was gone. I stumbled to the hotel room, Caleb following instinctively. "You're insane," I screamed, grabbing his tie. "You have two choices, me or someone else." His grip on my wrists tightened, yet he didn't let go. It was chaotic, desperate, almost violent, but in the final moment, he insisted on restraint. Condom in place, he reminded me, he wouldn't compromise respect, for me or Jackson. Respect. Huh. My first night with Caleb was a mistake. Morning revealed him awake, observing me by the window, unreadable in the backlight of dawn. About last night, I rasped. "Jackson is cheating," he interrupted, stating fact over question. My silence confirmed it. "I'll pretend it never happened," he said, standing. "Your business with Jackson is yours. But my advice? Cut it clean. Avoid bars. Keep it simple." His words, moralizing and absurd, stoked my indignation. Jackson cheated first. I was only responding. I blocked him. If the world is filthy, then you're clean enough. So me? Caleb's face remained stoic. "I don't sleep with my friends' wives." "Oh, really? Then, who was last night?" His expression hardened. I pressed my advantage, revealing the marks he left on me. The air thickened, electricity crackling. Neither of us gave ground. Finally, he swept me into his arms, striding toward the bed. His suit became the cage he shed as his restraint melted away. He was a beast, and I was his prey. And so it began, my arrangement with Caleb. Every encounter started the same. He'd insist he wasn't interested in being a secret lover, that I should find someone else. A few provocative words from me, though, and his hands would be at his tie. Over time, it became instinctual. The second I caught him loosening it, I wanted to flee, but he had developed a taste for it. He wouldn't allow me near anyone else. Then, of course, he wanted a promotion. I wasn't foolish. Divorcing Jackson, starting fresh with Caleb, retracing the same mistakes, it was a trap I wouldn't fall into. No divorce, no future. If Caleb tired of our arrangement, he could leave. I wouldn't stand in his way. But Caleb wasn't normal. He was obsessed with legitimacy. If he couldn't have it, he was willing to burn everything and everyone down. The party had been a disaster. Guests left with strained smiles, their appetites for drama thoroughly satisfied. After the last car pulled away, Caleb offered me a ride home. Jackson's hand shot out instinctively. "No." Exhausted, I pried his fingers from my wrist. "You're just leaving?" he demanded, voice low and dangerous. "Not even an explanation?" "For what?" I asked innocently. "You and Caleb. How long?" "My husband," I said, blinking. "Why are you overreacting?" His jaw slackened at my audacity. "It's just an affair. No one's dying over this. We're not divorcing. Besides," I added, "I've only ever been with Caleb. You've had 10 mistresses? A dozen? I'm not upset. Why should you be?" Jackson laughed bitterly, disbelief mixing with fury. "Of course. No wonder you didn't care about my cheating. You've had someone else all along." Caleb's cool tone poured gasoline on the fire. "You hear that, Chloe? I don't mind being the other man. But your husband, with his legitimate title, is being petty. I'm far more generous than he is, I added. Jackson lost it. Fist flying, he lunged at Caleb. Calmly, Caleb blocked him and shoved him aside. Chairs toppled. Jackson, watch yourself. We're in public, I warned, then turned to Caleb. Why should I care about appearances when you don't care about my feelings? He replied. Jackson sank to the floor, a mess of tears and laughter. Just an affair, just an affair. Then, abruptly, he snapped. Chloe, I want a divorce. Are you sure? I asked, letting the words hang. Absolutely.
Fine.
Let's do it. Caleb's face lit with triumph. Jackson's, blank disbelief. You love him, don't you? Jackson whispered. All this time, you refused to divorce me, but now it's because of him?
This is what you wanted, I said. No.
I take it back. I won't divorce you. Never. He stormed out, keys in hand, girlfriend trailing, the baby crying. Our parents were stunned, silent. Outside, a massive boom shook the building. The abandoned construction site nearby, finally being demolished, erupted in dust and debris. I told Caleb to drive. I had no interest in the chaos. Dust and destruction, just like my life, reduced to ashes. I once said for me, there's no divorce, only widowhood. Jackson had once promised to be my husband forever. We both got our wish. He was dead. Jackson and his girlfriend had stumbled into the demolition zone together, seeking solitude. The blast had been prepared in advance, but in his rage, he'd evaded the patrols. They didn't survive. I refused any settlement money. It was his choice, his downfall. With the CEO gone, the company wavered. As his wife and a major shareholder, I stepped in. With Caleb's investor shares, we became majority owners. I assumed control. I didn't marry Caleb, but for his help, he became the child's godfather. At night, he still came to me, eyes dark, body worshipful, fiercely protective. He lacked the title, but he played every role convincingly. I paid him little mind, but it was nice having someone close. Occasionally loneliness crept in. On the baby's first birthday, I threw a grand party. Caleb, doting and attentive, took the baby when I tired. The child reached for me, giggling. Then, 2 syllables fell from her mouth. Mama. Sunlight poured in. Outside, the demolished site had been rebuilt. The foundation was solid, the project fully funded. When it's finished, it will be a landmark. How nice. I hope this time I get to see it stand.